You'll be by at 3? Okay, I'll leave the keys in the barbecue. Thanks. House calls, a thing of the past, right? Maybe not. That's this week on Motoring 98.
TSN's Motoring 98 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will, and Midas for new, longer-lasting, performance-friction carbon metallic brake pads.
This week we are in Ottawa, the nation's capital. Behind me, the Parliament buildings, the House of Commons. This is where they tell us all the great ideas for this country come from. Okay, I hear you. We're not going to talk politics, but we are here in Ottawa to meet a gentleman who came up with an idea for a business that he believes is a solution for people who have a problem trying to find enough hours in the day to do everything they want to do, including servicing the family car. 8 years ago, Peter Hush arrived in Canada from Poland to begin a new life. His dream was to earn enough money so his family could join him. He never turned down a job, training as a mechanic during the day and washing dishes at night. 5 years ago, he began Mobile Mechanics. His truck is his shop in which he makes household calls, maintaining and repairing vehicles. His family has since joined him, but Peter will never forget those early days.
That I still have two older couple which calls me every spring to clean their barbecues, and I went there just for a buck, just because in the beginning I was doing everything, and right now I have no guts to tell them that I'm not doing these things anymore, and and I go and clean their barbecue. But actually it was two factors which sort of forced me to do what I'm doing right now. The first was the independence, and the second was the money. Of course, to open a garage, you have to have much more money than to open mobile garage, and much more overhead. And I discovered that you can do almost everything mobile. Oh, never lonely. When I'm going from one guy to another, I keep my mind on other things and. Enjoying the scenery, and it's just time for me, relax.
And then if you're idling at a corner, where the other day I was at the coffee shop waiting in line to go up and pay, and the car stalled out 3 times on me. Just happened to see his truck one day on the road, passed by, and I said to my wife, "That's a great idea. Take the number down, let's see what we can do." Called him up, had him come over and do some work on one of my son's cars. Extremely pleased. The way he talked with you, he talks to you in a language you can understand, takes care of your needs, and does it very reasonably.
And you know what I'm going to do? You have idle air control motor. It's like a step motor. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it out and clean it, because in many cases it carbons up, the carbon builds up, right. and the motor doesn't control the idle the way it should, sometimes. That's why, because that's the only reason why the car stalled, is the idle air control motor, okay? I think I'm fully equipped to do most of the jobs. Of course, I don't do engines. I don't pull engines, transmissions, and the heavy job. But besides that, I can do, from exhaust, brakes, front, rear end, suspensions, tune-ups, head gaskets, valve cover gaskets. And of course, I have high-tech equipment, scope, scanner, computer. I can handle any job.
I don't really have much use for mobile mechanics. His concept was quite good, and he was honest, and he was above board. He can survive because he's by himself. actually, most small businesses, I don't think you're going to see too many more small automotive businesses. They're going to be a dinosaur in the next few years. It's just getting that you just can't do it because of the overhead and so on.
Do you try and undercut the independents on an hourly rate, or do you try and stay comparable?
No, definitely not. You can't undercut, because when you undercut your competition, you're undercutting yourself, and you end up, being cheap. And I don't want to create the image. Okay, call this guy. He's a cheap mechanic. I don't want to create that image. I charge fair hourly rate, and I do excellent job, and that's it. I don't want to say, hey, you Canadians, you don't know where you live, but it's just, this country is just beautiful, and I'm not trying to, to be nice. I'm telling you what I feel about this country is opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. If you want to do it, just, you have a dream, just, hang on to it and go for it. Nothing stops you.
Bike riders are always whining about car drivers. Well, guess what side of the spokes I come out on this one? That's coming up later on Kenzie's Corner.
With the popularity of sport utility vehicles and minivans, I for one was convinced that the days of the station wagon were very definitely numbered. Well, not according to Suzuki, because they have spun a wagon off their popular Esteem sedan. Now, to accommodate the versatility you expect in a sedan, they had to tack an extra 6 inches onto the back end, and they did so without destroying the proportions. For 98, Suzuki have played with their 1.6-litre 16-valve engine in an effort to put the power in the more usable area of the band. Consequently, the horsepower drops from 98 to 95. However, the more important figure, torque, rises to 99 pounds-feet at just 3,000 RPM, which is 200 lower than it was before. While it is true that these numbers are less than inspiring, the Esteem wagon still manages to move along well enough. To race from rest to 100 kilometers an hour will take you about 10 seconds, while 80 to 120 takes just over 7 seconds. Around town, the throttle response is acceptable, and you'll never feel as though you're about to rear-end the rear bumper. Merging with freeway traffic, however, takes a little more patience, and as you run through the upper portions of the rev range, the engine certainly lets you know it's working. That said, once cruising speed is attained, the Esteem is quiet enough. Now, a little bird told me that Suzuki have a V6 coming soon. I sincerely hope it finds its way under this hood as well as the one you'll find on the brand new Sidekick. The Esteem wagon is very nicely attired. Now, while some may consider this fabric a little loud, I think it brightens what could have been a very boring interior. Great set of analog gauges, primary controls fall readily to hand, as do the power mirrors and the locks and windows. Great set of push-button climate controls, but the biggest single improvement is the radio. You now no longer have to be Sherlock Holmes to find the buttons. Gone is the old Mickey Mouse unit, in place a great sounding Blaupunkt unit.
The suspension features McPherson struts at all 4 corners with L-shaped lower control arms and a sway bar up front, and twin lateral links in back. Understeer is controlled, and when it does show up, it arrives because the tyres give up the ghost. As you approach the Extreme, the Esteem also picks up the inside rear tyre because of the relatively high roll centre. All of that explained, the general road manners are well above average for this type of car. Even the steering contributes. The on-centre feel is good, and the transitions between left and right are precise and predictable. There is one anomaly I don't care for, and that is that the front struts suffer from a lack of travel. Rather than bottoming out on big bumps, the front suspension actually tops out. The system needs more rebound travel.
The rear end of this wagon has been thought through as well as the front. Beneath the floor, there's a compartmentalized system that allows you to hide your valuables. Little storage areas. There's another storage area right there. There's a privacy cover that keeps prying eyes off your valuables. However, the thing that I like the most, the 70-30 split rear seat. This allows you to accommodate skis on the left and 2 people on the right.
Stopping power comes from a front disc rear drum design that offers excellent pedal feel and short stops. In the brake test I required just 113 feet to stop from 80k. That there is no provision for an anti-lock system is unforgivable. Now Suzuki need to address this sooner rather than later. On the safety front, the Esteem gets side impact members in the doors, child-proof rear door locks, and of course dual airbags up front. Well, there you have it. The Esteem is a reasonably nice little package. It's versatile, comfortable, and despite its modest amount of horsepower, it's reasonably peppy. However, where this car excels, fuel economy. We've averaged better than 38 miles per gallon during the test, and that is not too shabby. On this update, we'd like to show you a couple of things we'd change about the CR-V. First of all, we'd like a full lift-up tailgate. Second of all, while there's two as in individual rear armrests, and there's one here for the driver, inexplicably, there's not one for the passenger. Now that's unforgivable. The other thing we'd like to see changed is the full-time four-wheel drive system. As it stands, it's 100% front-wheel drive until they start to slip. We'd like to see the system a little more proactive and have Honda relay 10% of the power to the rear wheels all the time.
Surprised me actually that in this day and age they're still doing this. I thought car shows had gotten out of the whole chicks in bikinis thing. I mean, it's a family-oriented activity now, as a lot of women are active in it, and it's just inappropriate. So I wrote the column saying, hey, this is the show, this is what they've got. They've also got the bikini pageant, and this is where I make my stand. I won't be there, and I didn't go.
Well, I've always believed that in the past that cars and girls mix, and a lot of girls like fast cars, and I think that they add a little flavor. You just don't want to have an all event for just men. You got cars, women love cars, and guys love cars. And I just think cars and girls mix.
I think it's completely inappropriate. I think people come here because they want to see the cars, and I think it's really gratuitous to have women walking around half dressed at these types of shows. I feel that that women who do it should be really examining what they're doing here, and I just disagree with it.
There you go, add a little sunshine to you.
It's not really an exploitation of women if the women choose to do it. Right, so they can't be saying you're being exploited, this and that, when we are being, we're doing it because we like to do it, and if we feel we're being exploited, we wouldn't do it. So if they don't like it again, they don't have to look at it. That's all I can say about that.
I think it's great. I think cars and the car shows go hand in hand. If it's done tastefully, I think it's great. And I think that there's far too many more important issues in the world that should be discussed.
I thought there'd be some reaction from women. I thought also from men. Strangely enough, there was nothing at all from men, which surprised me. And I guess it shows that the guys maybe realize that I'm right on this. Maybe.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns the importance of keeping all the lamps in your car clean. I suggest that at least once a week you take a clean cloth and go around your vehicle and check that A, all the lamps are illuminated, and B, that they're all clean. Keep this cloth under the front seat of your car or truck so it's readily accessible, and make a quick circle check just like the truck drivers do. Make sure they're all illuminated and clean them up. It's very important. And all you guys that think it's cool to spray paint your tail lamps black, rub a little harder and rub that black paint right off. It's dangerous. Another thing, if you've got fog lamps or driving lamps on your car, curtail their use to the only time when they're really effective, when you're on a deserted road or in foggy conditions. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and blinding other drivers. The glare is really offensive to a lot of drivers. That's your Midas tip of the week.
A portion of Motoring 98 is brought to you by the Solder Seal Gunk family of automotive products, makers of Puncture Seal Gold and Liquid Wrench.
We expect over 20,000 visitors over the 3 days. As far as students participating in this show, we've got over 250 students representing this show, and their enthusiasm is great. And each manufacturer has a captain and co-captain who will run their team. And some of the other students are product ambassadors, filling the public in on about the vehicles, what's new, what the vehicles are all about. We also have some support staff, and they're pretty much the team that keep the show running smoothly.
Yeah, actually, as far as the attention of all the cars we've had this year at the show, this has been getting the most attention. I think being involved in the auto show here at Georgian gives you a real big advantage as far as when you're going for jobs, and as far as already having hands-on training, this is the kind of thing that you would be doing in a job. It's a sharp looking car.
Yeah. Leg room too, I guess.
Yeah, have a seat there.
This is a way that the students can meet all the manufacturers. They can be involved, they are trained by them, they are dressed by them, they receive training, money, food from them, and they are ready to represent all the manufacturers. So this is a good time for them to start their network, and all the manufacturers feel that this is a good experience for them, and they invest a lot in terms of money, and usually they are very happy. And I can say that because year after year they repeat the same experience with us, and they always enjoy that. So I think it's both sides. This is a win-win combination for them and for us as well.
Well, it's now time to head to the garage and join Bill Gardner. You know, Bill, hanging out with Peter doing his house calls has given me an idea for you. Why not take your show on the road? How about it?
Believe me, Brad, I've thought of it, and quite often we do. We go on location to fix cars because, you know, a customer's not going to pay a $120 tow bill on a $100 repair job. So if you want the job, you've got to do it from time to time. And as a matter of fact, I quite enjoy it. And if we know the car well and the customer gives us a good description of the problem, 9 times out of 10, we can take the right tools and equipment and the right parts to fix the job on location. And I quite enjoy it. There's no phones ringing, nobody bugging you, 0 distractions. You just concentrate on the job. And you know, in the heavy-duty truck industry, those big rigs are quite often fixed on location, because when they get pulled over in a roadside spot check or at a scale, if they've got a major defect, it has to be fixed before they move the truck. So the truck mechanics can fix anything, anywhere, in any kind of weather. Those guys are unbelievable. And I take my hat off to that guy in Ottawa if he's doing it on some of today's cars, because I'll tell you, I look along this row here and I can think of pretty well anything I can do on these cars here, but there's some of the cars today where I just throw up my hands, honestly, and tell them to get it towed in. But I want to show you something that you can do, not necessarily on your own car, but on other types of machinery that you own. I think you'll find it interesting. The Canadian climate being what it is, there's probably a lot of machinery that you own or operate that you only use seasonally. For example, my dirt bike, my lawnmower, and my outboard motors barely get used 6 months of the year. Now, the fuel that's in the fuel system goes bad after about 3 months. Fuel companies tell you not to store more than a 3-month supply of fuel for a couple of reasons. First of all, they blend it seasonally, so if you're using gas that you purchased in the winter in the summer or vice versa, you're either going to experience starting problems or vapor lock, or maybe even both. However, the one thing that I want to talk about this week is the fact that the fuel in that fuel system, if you store it more than 3 months, it's going to get rust and corrosion in it, it's going to get gum and varnish in it. Now, if you add fuel stabilizer to it, it'll take care of all those problems, so you won't have any problems running that machinery next season when you want to operate it. Here's what you do. Take your fuel stabilizer. On this particular one, they've made it so that the cap holds 5 milliliters, which is the ratio that you're going to use, 5 milliliters per liter of fuel. Fill the cap up and then dump it into your machine. This particular machine holds about a liter of fuel, so 1 capful will do it. However, if you've already stored your machinery away and you can't do this, I still suggest you add it to the tanks. For example, if you've pulled your outboard motors out, you can't run them without having the lower unit in water. So you could at least add it to the fuel tank to make sure that that fuel standing in the tank is still good for next season. If you're storing your machinery in one of those backyard sheds, I recommend that you fill the tanks, because those sheds tend to have some wild temperature fluctuations. Even on a cold winter's day, if the sun's hitting them, they can get real hot inside, and at night they get really cold. That tends to induce moisture to enter the fuel system through condensation. If you have the tanks full and stabilizer in it, it'll minimize the problems that you could have under that situation. Been using this stuff for years. I really believe in it. I suggest that you pick some up and use it. The ratio is 5 milliliters for every liter of fuel. This bottle will treat 70 liters. Go out and check all that machinery that you've got standing around, put some in it. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 98.
One of the questions I get asked most frequently is, how can I choose a car that's going to be safe? Well, that's not an easy thing to do. First of all cars sold in Canada have to have passed the same
safety standards.
Thank you.
I hope you're rolling on that.
You rolling on that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's for the Christmas reel, right? If you watch bike riders in traffic for any length of time, pretty soon you're going to see one of them shaking his fist at some car driver screaming, "You four-wheel jerk, why don't you watch where you're going, blah, blah, blah." Listen, save your breath. You're preaching to a crowd that doesn't want to hear your message. It's not that car drivers deliberately want to kill bike riders. Well, most of them don't. It's just that you're bugs on the windscreen to these people. They never even see you. I know every bike rider's had a case where he's made eye contact with a car driver, the driver knows he's there, he turns right in front of him. They don't even show up on your radar screen. It's just the way it is. And if you want to fight with these guys, well, guess who's going to win that battle? As Pierre Trudeau once said, if you're a mouse sleeping next to an elephant, every time the elephant rolls over, the mouse is going to know about it. In the game of traffic, cyclists are mice, cars are elephants. Yes, I know drivers aren't supposed to open the doors in front of cyclists. They're supposed to watch when they're making right turns, but they're not gonna. So never forget the most famous epitaph of all. Here lies the body of Jonathan Ray, who died defending his right of way. He was right, dead right, as he rode along, but he's just as dead as if he'd been wrong. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, we wrap up this week's edition of Motoring 98 beside the beautiful Ottawa River. Now, before we go, I know we're going to get plenty of phone calls about Peter, our mobile mechanic. So get your pencil and paper ready. We're going to give you that phone number in case you want to give him a call for his services or just out of plain old curiosity. So here's the number, area code 613-795-3657. Well, that's it for this week. We will see you next week as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
The global car, it's great to think that you could have one car that meets the demands of customers around the world. But customers fundamentally don't like that idea because everybody doesn't want the same cookie cutter car.
TSN's Motoring 98 has been brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will, and Midas for new, longer-lasting performance friction carbon metallic brake pads.